that. Rock it like that. Project R1. My most successful fail. So it started out like this. I wanted a 7.3. I like mid-sized trucks. Mid-sized trucks for us have always worked out really well because you can purchase a tire and get a lot more money out of it. One of these tires, brand new, is not too much more than a traditional tire. Maybe it is. I mean, it's $400 probably, $500, but they'll go like 80,000 miles in the environment that we have and we use down here. And so I wanted a mid-sized truck because you can put all of your stuff on them easier. Instead of like a traditional pickup truck, you can like sacrifice like cab, like it's not gonna be the nicest cab, you know, but it's gonna be like a very plain Jane, has a 7.3 turbo diesel in it, manual 5-speed, a lot of ass behind here, just because you want the ability to put your tools, you want the ability to be able to run cheap tires, or let's say cheap per mile tires that don't have like, you can take them to the dump, especially if you're doing tree work or something like that. You want a big bed because like 14-foot bed is nice. You can put your toolboxes on it. In our case, we put an air conditioner through the cab just for like camping and tent purposes. You can do whatever you want to do with the back end of a truck like this, and typically it's going to go more miles for less money. What I made a mistake on was I went with a truck that needed too many little items done, as opposed to finding a truck like this and then bleeding the wealth out of it. So I think that you can retro one of these trucks like we did. We were basically planning on running this for another 200,000 miles. We put on the new tires because we're like, all right, we're going to do another set at some point. That's still 160,000 miles worth of tire. We're going to do the transmission. That should last us at least 100,000, right? Engine should be good. It's a 7.3. It should be good. It's 118,000, I think, when we started messing with it. I think it's got like 135,000 on it now. But like, that's low for a 7.3. And we can do like minimal work in the cab, like primarily just putting, these are 2018 Ford van seats. So we put those in there, did primer in the cab, never finished the top of it because more, you know, we plan on, you can run this truck for 10 years, which you can. We did a custom work here with doing some hydraulic. That's a hydraulic reservoir. The reason that we did that is because we put the 35,000 pound, 30,000 pound hydraulic winch on it, which is right off the PTO. Did all LED lighting on it, complete it with a license plate. And the engine itself I was super excited about because everyone that saw it said there's not a leak on it, it's beautiful, it's low miles, it's a 7.3, I flushed the oil on it, you know, did all that type of stuff. And it turns out that there was this brownness in the coolant that we couldn't ever quite, I think we flushed it like 3 times and it had like a tint of brown. And we even changed out the reservoir for where the coolant was. And I don't know, that allowed us to see exactly what was going on in the coolant. And long story short, ended up getting a pinhole in the block. We chased everything from head gaskets to oil intercooler to replacing all, you know, all that stuff has been redone. Alternator, new radiator, new everything coolant. New air filter, new brakes, new calipers, absolutely everything. But when you get a pinhole in your leak or a leak in the block, you can chase everything, but at the end of the day, you need to do a new block. And this is why all the older guys had told me, Trav, find a truck that's got a blown engine, because everything else will work. You're not gonna have to mess with like signals for turn signals that haven't worked. Is it a bulb? Is it a fuse? You're not gonna have to do all that type of stuff. It's just gonna be like the truck was on the road and then the truck is not on the road, and that's because the engine blew. Those are the best trucks to buy. In the future, that's what I'll do. I'm happy that we learned how to do systems on this truck. Like we learned how to put in like, we did an inverter at one point, and we had like lighting on this whole thing. We had a little box for it, and you know, it's a platform that allowed us to mess with it and set it up so that it worked really well for our business, but we've upgraded our situation. So it's sad, but it's not sad because it's a really good lesson learned. We learned how to do bedliner paint, which came out awesome. It's a Florida truck. It was always a Florida truck. Mentor Mike bought this truck new in '95, and it's been on this property the entire time, so it's a little sentimental. And it's a 7.3, which I think is just one of the best engines, especially for '95, that was out there. I mean, Cummins had a good one. This would be a baller truck with a Cummins in it. That would be like friggin' so nasty. But for guys that do trees, guys that do lawn, landscape work, any contractor really, anyone who needs a bed, lawnmower guy, if you are the type that can tinker with an engine and drop a new 7.3 in it, this is definitely probably the truck that you're gonna wanna roll with, especially for the price. Which is super unfortunate because I didn't know that if you were to buy a truck with a blown engine, it's actually cheaper than doing everything else on the truck. So now I know for future projects how to do them faster, cheaper, better, but it still hurts on this one. Things more American than a 7.3, especially a black 7.3. That's how this should all come. If Ford had kept it like that, I feel like there'd be good things. But we hit the rock Chevy. We're rocking the Chevy because Duramax, and it's an 06. So this is a 95. This is an 06. I don't really believe in running for what we do. We don't need to run brand new trucks. Like, we don't need to do that. It's a waste of money in my opinion. So we bought this one for 30,000 bucks. The cost of doing this one was 25,000. We had it set up a little differently. Some of the things that we did have on this truck are now on the other truck. But with the 06, we've got the larger cab. Obviously, it's a Duramax. It's more serviceable. The parts are more readily available. 7.3 is good too. It's just that we don't have a lot of good mechanics in this town. So the Duramax lets me go to the dealer a little bit easier. Could go to Ford on the 7.3, I guess, but they don't really mess with that locally here. So it's pretty much the exact same thing. It's a mid-size truck. It's pretty much the exact same thing. It's a mid-size truck, except it's got a crew cab. The cab is not super awesome. It's kind of paper thin, but it's the same platform. It's a Duramax with an Allison automatic on a 4-wheel drive setup, and it does, like, the best thing I love about this truck is it's got the locking hubs. And in my opinion, like, locking hubs are like totally necessary on a 4-wheel drive truck, like just 100% totally necessary. And same way, like flipping up the cab, this is, I mean, obviously this is not new to anybody in a mid-sized truck. It's gonna be what it is, but like genuinely everything's more accessible. So I feel like with this particular truck, I can do a lot of the work on it. My buddies can do a lot of the work on it. Yesterday I changed the air filter. It was like as easy. I didn't need any tools to do it. Like, it was very convenient. It was a massive air filter. I don't know if they used a bigger one on this one or whatever, but the setup on this truck is relatively like simple and plain Jane, and so that's why we went with this one. But my original truck for doing lawn and landscape, particularly landscape supply and bobcat services, was something like this. It was actually a top kick, and it was a 1991 top kick with a cat diesel in it. Thank God we didn't have any problems. We didn't have to buy any parts for it. As long as we ran good fuel through it and kept the filters clean, that thing just ran, and we ran the hell out of that. And we like put good tires on it, and then we just milked that truck out, and eventually the truck got in a wreck, and it wasn't worth anything anyway. And it was so cheap to insure. These larger trucks are cheaper to insure than these smaller trucks. Like we had earlier this year, we had an F-250. Rid of that. We had an F-250 that We used for work, but you know, we didn't really want to beat the crap out of it, so we didn't use it a whole lot. But when we got rid of the F-250, our insurance dropped by $700. Like, we replaced the F-250 on the insurance because we were using that as our main truck when this one broke, to this one, which is a larger truck, newer, worth about the same amount of money. Like, we sold the 250 for 20 grand. We have this one for 10 additional. So this one's 30,000 bucks. They're not a whole lot different, but the insurance was drastically different. Obviously it has more expensive tires and whatnot. It gets about a little bit less fuel mileage, but it's just a bigger, heavier duty platform, and it's just a newer version. It's a 10-year newer version of R1. And I guess we're gonna have to have this one for 10 years because we're gonna wait a good like minute for the new one to see if it's good or whatever, and we'll try to buy one for 30 grand because I want to run this for like 10 years, put 300,000 miles on it, and still sell it for like 15 grand. That's kind of the plan. Sometimes that works out, sometimes it doesn't, but nonetheless, I do like how the fleet looks.